And the number one thing I think I hear from people is, well, I just don't feel comfortable speaking up. It's just not my thing. I'm not a really good speaker. Well, neither really am I. I mean, I've been thrust into this situation. I've never been politically active in my life. And the situation arose and I just knew I had to do something. And so I encourage all of you, I hope when the speakers are done that you really do find your courage and get up here. It's not that bad. She gave a great introduction of me, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about my background because I'm going to be giving you some information, and I feel it'd be good for you to know that I know a little bit about what I might be talking about. So I, as a mental health professional, I went through my master's degree in internship, and you have to do 3,000 hours of internship and take a state written and oral exam before you're licensed as a therapist. And I did all that, and I worked in the field for many years. And the populations that I worked with ranged anywhere from women in a drug and alcohol center along with their children to 4th through 6th graders that were involved in gangs. I had one little girl on my caseload that her entire family was killed by the Mexican mafia. So I've dealt with a lot. I worked with kids in the foster care system who were up for adoption. I've worked with AIDS patients. I've worked with, I did a private practice for a while, working with people who were depressed, had schizophrenia, you name it. So I have the whole spectrum of mental illness that I worked with in the 19 years that I was in that field. And then I decided I was carrying all that emotion and I needed to get out of it for a while. I became a real estate agent. That's what I do now. And it's really very similar, surprisingly. So because of my background, I speak still to a lot of other professionals who are still working in that field. And I've been looking online and looking at videos of psychiatrists and therapists who are talking about what they are seeing in their clinical practice. One such person is Mark McDonald. He's a child and adolescent psychiatrist in West Los Angeles. And he says that he has seen a rapid and substantial increase in emotional illness with every single child in his practice. Every single one. The things that he is seeing is increased anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, bedwetting, self-harm, child abuse, violence against their siblings, panic attacks. These are all not good. You know, every time I hear somebody say, but they might get COVID, it's like they might, but they are getting this. This is a known, it's happening, and it's really detrimental. It's having a permanent effect on their brain structure. We are rewiring their brain. So you need to understand that. This isn't something that's just going to go away when we go back to school. There's an urgency here. We all have a part of our brain from the back here called your amygdala. Your amygdala is what deals with stress. So when you have infants who have a parent that's checked out and they're crying because they're hungry or they need their diaper changed and nothing's happening and they're not getting their needs tended to, that amygdala stays in a stress mode and it releases hormones in their brain like cortisol and it rewires their brain. Those children grow up and they have emotional difficulties their entire life. It doesn't ever go away. They are the ones that, you know, we have a myriad of reasons why kids have learning disabilities, and, you know, it's not just because of that, but it's definitely a contributing factor for so many of them. So we're now doing this to our kids. They are in a constant state of stress. When we take them out in public, and we have to, they're seeing everybody walking around with masks. It looks really scary. They don't know what the facial expressions are. They can't tell if someone's angry. People are in stress themselves and they're feeling that stress. Everything is different in their life. There's no more public pool. There's no more the ravine. There's no more parks until just recently. There's no more amusement parks. There's no more festivals that we take them to, Kids Day in the park, concerts in the plaza. All of the social interaction is gone. And many parents are living in fear. They are in fear themselves, and what happens when they're in fear is they get paralyzed, and then they're not able to take in the information. They're stuck in that place. And so they're doing what they think is best for their child, and they are keeping them at home the way our government has told us they need to be. And that is stressful and depressing for the whole family. And parents, we all know that our kids drive us crazy sometimes. Even the best of us, we can lose it. And parents are losing it more than ever, and the child abuse is happening. And our foster care system here locally has seen a massive increase in the amount of kids that are being taken into foster care. This is just not a good situation. I know another mom here locally. This is all personal stories. She has lost her home. She's lost her income. She couldn't pay for that. She's lost her home and she's living in her car. This is an urgency. We cannot stand around any longer and hope that somebody's going to fix this for us. We have to fix it. We've got to start demanding, we've got to start fighting, and we've got to start getting the word out there. I've gotten kind of off my topic of the way I was going to speak, but I think you're getting the point. So my personal story is that my child has special needs. He has ADHD and high-functioning autism and sensory processing disorder. So when he's in school, he has an aide that's with him. He gets overwhelmed, and if he is too much chaos or he gets bored, which often happens, he's very smart, he just leaves. And so that doesn't work well in the public school system, right? So they have an aide to help him learn how to stay focused and how to ask for when he needs a break. And I was told when this all first started that, well, we have a legal obligation with children with IEPs, and probably we're still going to be having them come to school. Don't worry. Within a day, that all changed. And they said, we can't, because the teachers' union has said that we cannot be any different than the other teachers. I said, really? The special ed teachers function differently than the other teachers all the time. Why is this any different? Well, the teachers' union. So anytime somebody tells you that the teachers' union doesn't have any control over this, they're wrong. They're the entire reason that we are still in this situation. So our school district in Templeton did a survey. They did a survey for the teachers and administration. They had a survey for the students filled out, and then they had a survey that the parents filled out. What's remarkable is that the one that the teachers filled out, they had it separated. If you were a teacher who identified with any kind of immune compromised, or you were at risk for COVID, they had them fill out the survey separately than everybody else. The teachers who were not at risk, 86% of them were in favor of going back to school. Of the teachers who were at risk, over 60% of them were in favor of going back to school. And our school board, I feel, was pretty close to deciding that we were at least going to do hybrid. And within 1 week, they changed their mind. The reason being that the small group of teachers who were in the teachers' union and very active in the teachers' union did their own survey, and they presented it, and none of the teachers were comfortable with going back to school. Why did it change in a week? They would have you believe it's because we were on the watch list. That's not true. I personally had teachers coming to me and thanking me for speaking out at the school board meeting, and they said, we don't feel comfortable speaking out. I had 5 teachers come and tell me that. These were teachers that I'd never interacted with before. I don't know their names. I know what they look like. but they weren't my son's teacher, so I couldn't tell you who they are. But I guarantee you there's more of them. If they didn't feel comfortable speaking out, and parents don't feel comfortable speaking out, then here we are. Some things you need to know about what's happening in our school system. So back in April, the Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, declined signing a waiver that was being pushed by school administrators that would have made changes to the laws guaranteeing a free public education to students with a disability. Wendy Tucker, the policy director of National Center for Special Ed, said, "Times of crisis are not the time to roll back civil rights. When you roll back civil rights protections, it's very hard to bring them back." And we're experiencing that now, right? It was supposed to be 2 weeks. Come on, you can all just do it for 2 weeks. What's the big deal? Well, it's only a month. It's only a month, right? Now it's been 6 months, and there's no end in sight. The other thing that's important to understand is the Brown Act. How many of you are familiar with the Brown Act? So this is a legislative law that creates a situation where any meeting that affects the public must be transparent. So what are we all experiencing when we attend the school board meetings by Zoom? I don't think it's following the Brown Act. What I see is our school board members sitting around a table well more than 6 feet apart from each other, yet they're still wearing a mask. And you can't hear them. It's muffled. It sounds like this through the computer. And how are you supposed to understand what they're saying? It's ridiculous. And you can't see who it is that's speaking. You can't zoom in on your Zoom camera and see who it is that's talking. You can't see the expression on their face. You lose all that body language that tells you what's really going on. And when we call in and say, we want to speak, this almost happened to me. They knew that I had said I wanted to speak, and they called my name, and I'm raising my hand, and I'm clicking on the little hand saying, I'm here, and they're like, oh, we don't see her. Well, there's over 200 people in the Zoom call. So they almost didn't see me, and I typed in, I'm here, and they finally got to me. So how many people are not going to be that diligent or aren't going to be technology savvy enough to know what to do? And they're just going to not say anything, right? So we need to stop putting an end to these Zoom meetings with the school board. They need to open it up and let us be there. And I, for one, think that we need to start protesting outside where they meet. At the school board meeting that they had where it was the decision about whether or not we were going to go back, it started at 6 o'clock in the evening and it went until 12:30 midnight. How many people do you think stayed the entire time? I did. It was brutal. And for 45 minutes at the beginning, they had such technical difficulties that there was no sound and they had to stop the meeting while they were trying to figure it out. And I typed in, distance learning, this is what it'll be like. And it is. So the California Teachers Union, let's talk a little bit about that. They have publicly put it on their website that they've made a decision to ask student CTA members and Community College Association to reach out to their associated student government to call for a null and void of contracts with police departments and campus safety, and to end school resource officers and policing on school campuses. What does that have to do with education? This is one of their demands for getting back to school. How many of us, a couple years ago, I know Templeton had a big, huge meeting where we all went and listened to what security measures were being put in place because of the school shootings that were happening around our country. Do you really think that we're ready to not have resource officers at our school? The insanity with what's going on with our teachers union and the control that they have over our public school system has got to end. I told my husband that this is my new lot in life. This is my new decision of what is most important for me, and that's to either get rid of the teachers union altogether or to greatly reduce their power. They have no business doing that. So I hope you'll all join me in that effort. My husband said, well, it might take your whole life. I'm ready for it. I hope you are. So in closing, I want to leave you with a question. Do you view this as a political issue or a public health issue? It can't be both. If you are recognizing this as a political issue, then by participating in their guidelines of wearing a mask, social distancing, staying home, not having your family out in public, we are allowing them to cause damage to our children. And it's time to put an end to it.
Yeah.
Thank you.